Hi, and welcome to Academic Compliance Academy. In this video, I'm just going to shortly introduce you to the subjects of level 1 in the project of drafting and sharing knowledge on risk-based compliance method. So, at level 1, we will discuss, or I will present, what is compliance. Because before we can go further, we need to have the same understanding about what is compliance. There's a lot of different views on what compliance is. It might be purely legal, regulatory compliance, might be politics, or as I've put out here, the alignment on how you behave your actions in accordance to politics or law. And sometimes it's just money. There are many views on compliance. So what I'm going to do in the beginning is to define compliance. Also give you my initial thoughts on which historical events, what have happened in economics and law that has led us to this stage of compliance, this contemporary way we should understand compliance called dynamic compliance. So of course we start with what is compliance. After that, I will go into the simple question of what is law. Compliance have had like an origin where it is constantly connected to some type of legal structure. So before we can really ask ourselves, are we compliant? We need to understand compliant with what? And since there's a lot of regulatory demands and other law enforcement or law subjects that we need to relate to in terms of compliance, well, we should ask ourselves, what is law? Because we need to understand what we're complying to before we can comply to it. So that will be the next stage, is what is law? Under the law section, I will be talking about policies and principles, because law can be divided into certain elements, functional elements, such as hard law, soft law. And under these elements, we will see specific subjects like policies and principles and how they might interfere but still have like some different key values in them and how they are represented in terms of compliance. So we will look into that. One of the really main drivers in my perception of dynamic compliance is the economical management background. So I will try to go through some of the main economic management theories, which I will base on the GRC framework. So corporate governance, risk management. And so the C is actually compliance, but I call it reactive compliance. And on top of the GRC, I would put in CSR, so corporate social responsibility. I will take these old elements, which are fairly new, but relate them to contemporary dynamic compliance and say, okay, so what is the classical GRC framework and how should we perceive this in terms of dynamic compliance, where everything is risk-based? Because this will elaborate and it will give some understanding on where management is going and where the challenges has been and where the challenges are when you talk risk management or corporate governance in terms of dynamic compliance. So overall, level 1 I will try to determine, also limit, or brought out some kind of understandings of what is compliance. From a legal, from an economic view, and some historical events will also appear because, let's face it, we're here for a reason. Dynamic compliance doesn't come from like the blue sky. It comes because we have a system that has led us to this point of no return, where we see the whole world in a globalized environment being more and more risk-based, which have led to risk-based compliance called dynamic compliance. So let's start on level 1. Stay tuned, follow this channel, and let's talk more compliance.